We are currently about T-minus 3.5 hours from the NAL's first game. It's about 12:30 Eastern right now as I'm recording this, and I guess the stream is supposed to start 3:30 Eastern, and the games are supposed to start about 4 o'clock Eastern, so we'll see when they actually start. But I wanted to do a little prediction for the first day, but before I actually make predictions, let's look at a few trends and what went on in Stage 1 and Stage 2 to help predict what might happen today. So here are the Stage 1 rankings, the points that each team had, and the Stage 2 rankings and the points, and then we have the rank change, so if they went up or down in the rankings, as well as the point change. So as you could see here, SSG went way up, TSM went up, Dark Zero went up, and XSET, I guess, went up. Everyone else went down. And the point changes. SSG, a record-setting 22 points. I mean, you can only get 24 points, so they missed out on 2 points by losing in overtime to Dark Zero. It's going to be pretty hard to beat this total. So, right, these are the games that are actually going to happen. These are the results from the Stage 1 and Stage 2 versions of these games. But for the first game, we have Beast Coast versus XSET. Now, let's see. XSET is on a little bit of an uptrend, and Beast Coast on a little bit of a downtrend, and this is directly compared to each other because they just switched places. But XSET, as you can see here, they got the same number of points in Stage 1 and Stage 2, so I mean, you can't say they're not consistent. Beast Coast lost as many points as XSET got in either stage, so Beast Coast on a bit of a downtrend. -5, as you can see, is, I mean, the second biggest number, tied is with the other -5. But who is going to prevail in this game? Well, in Stage 1, Beast Coast beat XSET pretty handily, 7-3. And in the last stage, XSET beat, I don't remember which map. I'm not going to remember what any of these maps were, I don't think, but I could probably remember these ones. This was a consulate game, and this was one of the most fun games to watch of Stage 2. It was very exciting. XSET ended up winning it, and it could have really gone either way, because of course, that's sort of the nature of a round 15 game. So who's going to win this one? I mean, if you just look at the differential between the two, XSET is 3 rounds worse than Beast Coast. XSET only taking 11 rounds, where Beast Coast has taken 14 rounds. And it's not really just based off that, but we also have to factor in the fact that XSET and Beast Coast both made 2 roster moves. So XSET dropped, and I mean, technically Jarvis, but he was just filling in, but they dropped Drip and Thomas, and they picked up NVK and Prod. And Beast Coast dropped Biologic and Rudy, and they picked up Young Alec and Jay. And they formerly, I didn't mention this in the previous video, but they played with Jay before. He was a member of, I don't recall the team name, but he played with the other 3 members other than Young Alec, I believe, which are Fozo, Sippin, and Anthony. I think he played with all 3 of them on a Challenger League team, I want to say, or maybe it was just a T3 team before they were challenged. I'm not sure, but they played together anyways. So there's going to be some immediate synergy, I would imagine, there. And Young Alec was one of the best performers in Challenger League last season. Similarly, on XSET, Prod did pretty well. He was on the same team as Young Alec, and if I recall right, he had a little bit less of an impressive performance on stats-wise, but still very impressive, like top 10 or 15 or something. I mean, correct me if I got those mixed up, but I want to say Young Alec was like number 2 and Prod was like number 6 or 8 or something. Anyways, both very good results. They both played very well for their team, and they were on the same team. And the other new player on XSET, NVK, former world champion on the former Evil Geniuses roster, and I believe they were Continuum at the time, but, you know, Canadian, Necrox, NVK, Young himself, and it was King George that actually won SI, and then SI runners-up the next year. So a lot of potential there for, I mean, all members of the new teams, especially MVK, with the world champion thing and just getting very far in several other events, like a lot of just runner-ups. But I imagine it's going to be Beast Coast that's going to have the synergy right off the rip. And I think you could argue, and I don't even think it's that hard to argue, that Beast Coast made the bigger improvements in the roster moves. Drip and Thomas were generally 2 of the better players on XSET in the last 2 seasons. And Biologic and Rudy did pretty poorly in their recent showings. So, and as well as Jay having played with Beast Coast and NVK being sort of out of the game for a while. He's been back in and grinding and whatnot, but he hasn't been in pro play for a while, or even Challenger League. So I'm going to give the win here to Beast Coast. It could go either way, as, you know, as the fact that they both won one game each against each other shows. And Xset did win the more recent game, just barely. But I'm going to give the edge to Beast Coast here because it's so early in the season, and I think they're going to be able to gel with each other more quickly. But I did put Xset higher in the rankings when I did the previous video, so I think Xset will win more games total. And that's tentatively speaking. I want to see how all the teams play, but I'm going to give this one to Beast Coast. Mirage versus Space Station. In Stage 1, Mirage beat Space Station in a round 15 game. Space Station, they got in Stage 1, where are they? 7th place, which is not good, but as you can see, they tied in points with 2 other teams. And SSG, I think 3 of their losses were in overtime. So really, those could have gone either way. They could have gotten, I mean, I guess just 3 more points if they'd won in each of those in overtime, and just even 1 more win, of course, would put them above these 2, tied with Disrupt, and 2 more puts them above Disrupt, and 3 more, if they win all 3, they'd be, I guess, even above Mirage, tied with Sonics. But anyways, I don't think that matters too much because things were different back then. Mirage had Hot and Cold, and now SSG has Hot and Cold, and he's just been the best player in NAL by far. And SSG, and I haven't even mentioned this yet, SSG stomped them. It was one of their many stomps last stage. SSG, it's so impossible to vote against SSG here. I mean, obviously you got to give it to them. I do want to note just an interesting trend. It doesn't technically have anything much to do with these, but I guess I could have waited till I got to the Sonics game. But I want to note that if you look here, Sonics, they actually went down by 1 rank, but they went up by a point. That's because the very top was more competitive here. As you can see, the top place was 5 points higher, and then the second and third were both higher than the second here, and then this is tied with a 4th place, tied with 2nd here, and all these 12s here. It stayed the same that you had to get, if you got at least 13 points, you got into top 4, which is just a little bit of a trend. It might be significant in predicting something this stage, we'll see. But yeah, I guess I'll cover that just a little bit more. And Dark Zero went up 3 points and 2. Yeah, anyways, I just wanted to note that. Oxygen versus TSM. So Oxygen was 1st place here, but then they fell all the way to 6th place here, -5, not great. TSM, 5th place here, all the way up to 2nd, pretty big change. 4 more points, pretty good. Well, another thing I want to point out, all of these were 1 point apart as you go each step or fewer, like +0, +0, +1, +1, +1, and you +2 once you get up here. But this was a little bit more of a toss-up than this stage was. There's 2 points, 4 points, and then it's 1, 2, 3, 1, 0. So a lot more things being overlapping or very close. But back to this, Oxygen versus TSM. Oxygen took it against TSM the last 2 times. This was when Oxygen was doing very well in that stage, and TSM had a bit of a struggle in Stage 1. Stage 2, TSM did way better, but this is one of TSM's few losses. And it did come in the last Playday when TSM wasn't playing for anything except for to win the game, but they weren't playing anything standing-wise, and Oxygen was playing for to be 6th or 7th place. They ended up winning, so they got 7th place, or 6th place rather. They leapfrog Mirage, and I don't recall who had the head-to-head here, but if Mirage had the head-to-head, then even Oxygen had to win a regulation. Like, overtime wouldn't have done it, and they did 7-3, and they looked pretty good here. And then we saw them we didn't see them at the major. We saw TSM at the major. So I think just based on this history, like TSM looked like they were on a bit of a downtrend with their performance at the major, although you do have to add a bit of an asterisk there because of the whole Merc not being able to play, but then also take into account the fact that there was a little bit of speculated internal drama or something going on with them maybe dropping Merc, and maybe they couldn't get who they wanted or whatever it was. So maybe there's a little bit of animosity in the team, maybe not, maybe not. But Oxygen did win the last 2 against them, and even though this doesn't really show it, it seems like very, very recently at the end of this, at the end of Stage 2, Oxygen was on a bit of an uptrend and really based solely on this game. And so I'm going to give it to Oxygen. And if they do take this, I mean, that's a really good win to get early, and maybe my prediction of them being in, what did I say, like 6 or something? 6 again. won't be correct. So we'll see how that game goes. And then finally we have Sonics versus Disrupt, and well, they're not Disrupt anymore. They were for these two games. They are now Astralis, but Sonics did win the last two. This was the first game of stage 1, the very first game for either team and for any team. Very first one played. Sonics took it 7-5. It was close, and I don't remember what map that was. It was like club, I don't know, whatever. This was another console game. Oh, this was an Oregon game, and this was a cafe game, if you were wondering. But this is another consulate game, and this consulate, I was talking to somebody on Reddit a little bit, or just he posted something and then I responded. But he was saying something about how he thought that SQ would be on a downtrend now because their most played map, Consulate, is no longer in the pool. And while that's, I mean, that's a sort of valid point to make, SQ wasn't especially successful on it. They lost to, I think they lost to SSG on it, and they lost, who else did they lose? Did they play TSM on it? No, I think they played TSM on Villa. Maybe they lost Dark Zero on it. But they beat Disrupt and Exet and Beast Coast on it, and maybe one other team. I don't remember for sure. But yeah, they beat just the bottom two teams, which were basically free wins for like everybody. Who did Exet? Who did Exet even beat? Oh, they beat Mirage. Yeah, they beat Mirage and Beast Coast, and that's it. And Beast Coast beat nobody, right? They just got some overtime. Yeah, yeah. Anyways, Exet and Beast Coast historically have been pretty much free wins, even back here. I guess Beast Coast beat like TSM, and Exet beat Dark Zero, and Beast Coast beat Exet and maybe somebody else, or I'm not sure where they got the rest of the points from in that stage. But, oh yeah, and then this was not the very, or was it the last game? It was in the last Playday, and it was one of the most hyped games. I don't think it was the very last game. It was like second to last game, maybe? Whatever. It was like the ultimate game of the season because of the stakes and, with the winner just going to the major at that point. But you do have to consider that Sonics beat them the last two times, and neither team since this point has made a roster move. This was... Wait, would this be... Who? Yeah, no, this is still the same Sonics now, right? When did they make the big roster move? It was coming into... When they dropped their 4-player, it was coming into this, right? So it was the same Sonic roster here even? Yeah, I think so, right? And it was the same Disrupt roster, which is now Astralis, except for Mark was here instead of DP Fire, right? I believe so. Anyways, same rosters as this result when SQ took it, and they also took it here, so I'm gonna have to give it to Sonics. Yeah, Sonics. So that's what I'm gonna predict. I mean, I'm not gonna predict the round count. Like, I mean, if you really want, you can just like average out. I guess I picked whoever had the better round. These are both 2-0s in the past, and whoever had the better round count overall, technically I voted for in both of these. So you could average it out and find that if you really want. And let me just look really quick. Is there anything else I want to point out about the standing stuff? Well, yeah, I guess I sort of mentioned earlier, but this stage was a lot closer than this one. Like, just the top and the bottom were more competitive and less competitive. The bottom two here had 13 points in total, and they only had 8 points in total here. And the difference between top and bottom was 19 points here, and it's only 12 here. And I mean, you could just see like all of these being all the low ones. Right, okay. Look at the top 4 and the bottom 4. So just the middle is equal. All of these are higher than all of these, and all of these are higher than all of these. This was a much more competitive stage, and so I think based on this trend, it's going to become even more competitive. But SSG can't go up much further because, I mean, you can't get much better than they did last stage, except for to win the one game that they lost. And theoretically, these teams should be better. They made 2 changes, and hopefully they're going to leave the past in the past, and they're going to boss up. But other than that, we actually saw 4 uptrends and 4 downtrends, disregarding this, and then an equal trend on points. And then in terms of rank changes, same thing except for 5 downtrends. Yeah, at this point I'm just sort of rambling. You can notice other trends here, I suppose, sort of, but I think hopefully this will be the best season yet. We got a new Oregon, we got several roster moves in. We are now coming off of a major. So people hopefully have learned, the people at the major hopefully learned something from their time there playing against the other regions, and even the teams that weren't there hopefully watched some of the games and learned a little something as well. And that's going to do it. Those are the predictions, and that's the end of the video.